So it's Dasha here from Flair, and I'm going to be editing a photo for you. I've kind of already done it, but basically we're going to go from this image, which is an okay image. It kind of feels a bit like a snapshot, you know, there's nothing really interesting about it. It's some flowers, whoop-de-doo. And we're going to go to this image, which is a little bit more interesting. It's bright, it's an editing style that is very difficult for me. I quite like low-key, so whenever I edit, and not the god, okay, well, low-key, the god is also pretty cool, but I'm talking about low-key as in low-light photography. And with low-light photography, I generally like to have a lot more contrast in the images and have the images be quite a bit darker. So this is going a bit out of my comfort zone. In order to create this image, we're using, I'm using a bit of a technique called, well, I call it color toning, but many people call it color grading. Essentially what color grading is, or specifically color toning, is adding colors to the image in order to make it sort of appeal to you on a fundamental level. So whether that's through the use of complementary colors, or I don't know, whatever you want, you know, turning the image many shades of one color, whatever, but that's basically what we're going to do today. Let me kind of hide that and start from the beginning and kind of go through my process. First thing I want to do is I'm looking at this image and I'm going, okay, what do I not like? What is an immediately obvious issue? So obviously we want to use this for color grading, so the immediate issue is that, well, it's pretty standardized, you know, there's nothing specific that I can pinpoint as being something that I like. We want the focus to be sort of here on this patch of flowers, okay? Right now it's not. So the first thing I'm going to do is just start with the color grading straight off the bat, because the image doesn't really need all that much. This is a raw file, so I have already dealt with things like luminosity. So if I go into the raw file very quickly just to show you the before and after, that is the before of the image. I was using a macro lens. It was really hard to get it in focus and bright, so I just went with in focus. So that's the before and that is the after. Okay, so we don't want to change anything. Just going to zoom out. First step, I'm going to create a color balance layer. What color, or you know what, I'll make a video about what each of the tools does, that I can constantly refer back to, because it saves you a bit of time if you already know what it does. So first things first, I'm going to look at my midtones. Now, based on the histogram, I can see that 90% of my information is sitting in the midtones. I'm also seeing that a lot of the information is sitting in sort of the blue channels. We don't want that to be the case. We want to warm this image up. That's all we've done so far. It's a very subtle, very small change. You know what, actually, I like the reds being in the background as well. Okay, perfect. So I haven't done a lot, it's just -3 on one setting, -6 on the other. So now I'm just going to affect my shadows. Now, when you're color grading, using complementary colors is often a good way to go. It's not the only way, but it is something that is suggested. Again, I will at some point make a video on complementary colors and link it somewhere on the screen. For now, trust me, complementary colors are awesome. I want to make the shadow areas a tad more blue. If I look at this image, the shadow areas also are things like the center of the flowers and this section over here. And by making it a bit bluer, we're bringing out some of the purple around it. But it also makes it darker, if you look at that. There's no real perfect science to this, really. It's just do it until it looks right. I'm just going to play with the highlights quickly, and I'm going to speed this up if I take too long on it, so I'm just going to muck about with it very quickly. All we've done is muck about with the colors, and already we've created a bit of contrast in the image, and it's looking quite cool. Just looking at this, a bit zoomed out, the first thing that I'm noticing that's bothering me is that this section is a tad too dark, as is this section. Now this section we're going to first try and fix with a curves adjustment layer. I love adjustment layers, they're amazing. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this up as far as I can, go to my layer mask, Control I to invert, B for the brush tool. You just press X to swap between the colors. I want white selected, and I'm just going to sort of gently paint it in the area we want it. Dropping my flow down. Okay, now the first thing I'm noticing with this just is that it's way too saturated. So I'm going to go to Vibrance, which gives me a saturation and a vibrance layer. Right click on the layer and click Create Clipping Mask. Literally it does what it says, it clips the layer to the layer beneath it. So now we're only affecting that little portion. So I'm going to try and muck about with this a little bit to try and get it to be a little bit less in your face. Okay, as it stands it's a bit better, but I'm still not too fond of it. I think what we're going to do instead is something I should have done from the beginning, but I didn't do it in the beginning in the original image, in this one, so I'm not going to do it here. Is I go select the bottom layer, go Control Shift Alt N to create a new layer. When you're creating a new layer, if you don't want to have to move the layer around, just select the layer you want the layer to be above. It'll always go to the top. Okay. Press S for the clone stamp tool. You can use the sort of square brackety things to make it bigger and smaller, or just go up here. Oh, don't want clone stamp yet, and just make your size bigger or smaller there. So all I'm doing is very roughly sampling an area, stamping. Sampling an area, stamping. Oh, important thing, you want to make sure it says current and below. That's very important. Okay. Now the first thing I'm seeing here is that because of this vibrance layer, it's completely, you're losing all the color. So I'm actually just going to delete the layer and carry on clone stamping. I'm just closing off the curves layer as well, just so I can better see what I'm doing. So let me just, okay, I'm grouping the layers so that I can kind of see the before and after of what we've done. So click on the first layer that you want to group, hold down Shift, click on the last layer, and then press Control G to group it. So now we can kind of see how far we've come so far. That's a lot of fars, but you know what I mean. Now we're going to go and we're going to sort of decrease the contrast on this image. Now usually with images you always want to increase the contrast, not in this case. So if I grab this middle slider, if I move it to the left or to the right, it moves my midtones of my image left or right. Left makes it dark, well, left makes it lighter, right makes it darker. So I'm just going to push it to the left, keeping an eye on this main histogram, because I don't want it to push it so far that you like lose detail or it just becomes washed out. You want to have some detail in the dark areas, which is over here. So let's do that. Yeah, about there is where I'm kind of happy with it. I might push it a bit more. Okay, now that's not a necessary step in order to color grade. That's just what I'm doing for this image because of the look I'm trying to get. Perfect. The next step is to muck about with the channels. So I shall find the channel mixer. And what the channel mixer does is it looks at your output channel and says, okay, let's play with the colors in that channel. So in this case, like, I want less red, more red, whatever. Now in the tree sort of area, I don't want as much red as there is in the plant. We want it to be a bit yellower. So let's just, how do I reset that? Reset that. And I'm going to pull it down ever so slightly to get the greens looking good. I'm not really looking at the flower at this stage. Okay, perfect. Select the layer mask, go to your gradient tool, make sure you've got white selected with black underneath it, and make sure you have your round gradient tool thingy selected. Perfect. So I'm going to click over the flower that I want you to kind of focus on and drag out. And I'm going to invert it because I want this on the greenery, not on the flower. Do you know what? I think it's a bit too much. There, no. I think that's better. So I like subtle transitions and subtle effects. Okay. So I've done the gradient now. Awesome tool that I use for color grading is the gradient map. You don't have to use it. I'm sure there are other ways, but it's just something I enjoy. So I've already created a couple of different options. Again, this is just something I do often, so I do enjoy it. And you can already see what we've done looks good. You know, it's not over or underdone. So I'm going to select this one, just in case you want the color references. It's 1A023E for blue, and I'll use this one now. F9D77A for that like yellowy orange color. So I'm just going to press OK. Now obviously it colors the entire image, which is not exactly what we're looking for. What I'm going to do is play around with some modes. Color works for me. I'm seeing here that it looks overexposed, but it is not, which is good. Alright. So all I'm going to do now is drop the opacity all the way down. So that's at a place where I like it. Again, this is not an exact science, you kind of do this to taste, so to speak. And the last thing I want to do is maybe just up the curves. Oh, no, twice. The last thing I want to do is maybe just up the curves just a little bit. Just to get it really, get this area really desaturated and like black. Make it lack contrast. Let's try that again. Make it lack contrast. Not really 100% necessary, but you get the idea. So we have gone from this image, which kind of just looks like a photograph, nothing fancy, to this image, which just gets a better response from the viewer. If you look at our histogram, we've pushed that bell all the way to the sort of lighter areas of the image. If you feel like maybe it's a bit too bright, you could maybe bring it down a little bit. I think I might actually. Perfect. So you can see this is the one I originally did, this is the one I did with you now. There's not that much difference between the two. This one could maybe have a bit more contrast, but like the smallest amount. Might even just cancel out that curves layer. So the last step is my secret step of awesomeness. I have a sharpening action. All it does is create a new layer, stamps the image onto that layer, converts it into a flat black and white image. You blur it, you make a high pass, oh sorry, you don't blur it, you make a high pass filter. I've chosen 1.5 radius, that's just pixels, and I duplicated it once just because I like to do the subtle effect to build it up rather than do it all at once. And there you have it. We have color toned or color graded or colored in, whatever you want to call it, this image. I hope you learned something. I hope you found a cool new way to use a tool, or I don't know, felt inspired. I don't know, just whatever really. If you liked this video, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. If you liked the video, you know, like press the like button. Yeah, I'm gonna now and just kind of zoom in a little bit to this so you can see what we did. So that's the before image and that is the after. I hope you enjoyed this and see you guys in another video. Well, I'll see you. No, wait, we won't see each other, but you'll see my work. How about that? That's better. Yeah, cheers guys. Bye.